Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King 2, and today I'm going to be giving you part 3 of What If Naruto was a one-of-a-kind prodigy. Remember to get this one to 100 like as usual, share this to all of your friends in your social media platform, and also guys, stay tuned for the rest of what ifs coming your way over Anime King 3 and Anime King. And if you're new, yes, you heard that correctly. I indeed have 3 channels, Anime King, Anime King 2, Anime King 3, which I post what if on every single day for you guys to enjoy. So go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and support, and yeah, without further ado, would you to begin this new episode, start the intro. So, the last time we left off, as Naruto came back to the hotel, as he saw, there was Jari and another woman inside. He ignored the both of them as he went to take a shower. On returning, he was introduced to Mabe, who was there to make them feel welcome, as Naruto spoke to her, until the subject led to about Tsunade and Jiraiya talking about her, and Naruto told him to stop talking about her. He didn't like it, as Jiraiya was sure that Naruto wasn't understanding why he was mad, but yet he was mad about it. As he tried to calm Naruto down, but Naruto was getting angry, and Jiraiya mistakenly talked about her once again, which Naruto warned him not to do. The next thing Mabe knew, a pressure settled in the room. Jiraiya was sent sailing as Naruto slammed a kick right into him and knocked him away. Jiraiya was sure that a couple of his ribs were broken by the kick as he pulled himself back up, as Naruto told him that they were leaving, and if he did not agree he would leave without him. Jiraiya sighed in annoyance, as he couldn't leave without a breath. But in actuality, well, there was nothing else that he had left to teach him, as Naruto had excelled at everything so far. So, he guessed they were leaving, and they did. As Jiraiya told him that he was being a bit excessive, as Naruto told him no, if he was anyone else he would have died. It's just because he respected him a little, but despite that he still respected Tsunade even more. As Jiraiya shook his head, he walked with the blonde. They came to a stop though when Itachi and Kisame showed up, as Naruto told Jiraiya that he would handle Itachi. As he made his way off, Naruto was rather confident, as he took Itachi on. A battle engaged between the two, even though Itachi just wanted to talk. Itachi wanted to find out what happened that day because there was only 2 people that understood and knew what happened when his brother fell, and that was Tsunade and Naruto. And he didn't feel like breaking into Konoha to try and talk to Tsunade with her highly classified envoy guards all around her. So with that he took on Naruto. And Itachi soon come to realize why Naruto was so confident, as it pushed him to the point where he had to bring out the Susanoo. He brought down the blade of Susanoo, only for Naruto to catch it right in his palm and throw it back. As Naruto launched his most powerful technique, one of his most powerful, a rather large Rasengan that slammed right into it, filled with nature and just it broke the thing down. There was a struggle but Naruto won. The moment Kisame felt a dip, and Itachi chakra vanished, he fled. As Naruto looked down, a dead Uchiha was a good Uchiha, as he sliced the man's head off and took his eyes. As Itachi warned him about the masked man, and that Naruto was too open. They knew what he cared about, and that was Tsunade, and that could easily be taken away from him. It was then that Itachi felt it in his final moments, that raw, unending hate and anger that was just there under the surface, threatened to extinguish anything that dare touch anything precious to him. As Naruto took the ice and Itachi fell. As Jiraiya came back after, Kisame had run off, probably to report back to his group that Itachi was now gone. Seems that they underestimate the blonde too much. At Konoha, Tsunade was currently not having a good day. After all, Naruto wasn't here. He was gone for a really long time now, and she just wanted him to return back. Sir Tobia did a poor job on the village, not to mention when they had put the hero's son through all of that. The poor little Naruto who has been through so much crap that he did not deserve. So she changed that the moment she had came back. And one of the problems that stood in her way was Danzo, so she exterminated him. But now she was just waiting for Naruto to return, which will be soon. So yeah guys, that was basically as well. If you guys can switch across the place for yourself. So what is to begin this new episode? Tsunade stood by the window as she sighed. She missed the boy a lot. She wasn't even drinking that much. What was the point of drinking when someone wasn't here to tell her that it was dangerous for her health? Sure, she's only did it, but Naruto was just so... As she smiled, he was just so cute, worrying about her health and such. He most likely knew that she drank most of the time to get a reaction out of him, or probably he did not. The door to the office opened and two familiar faces walked in. The two individuals stood at the desks, as they were waiting for her to acknowledge them. Guess you can teach old dogs new tricks. Well, she would make them wait though. The two elderly individuals were silent as they waited for the Hokage to address them. They knew that the angry Tsunade was a lethal one. You didn't poke someone that can crush concrete with their fingers and snap chocolate metal with their pinky. So that was stupidity at its finest. That is why Koharu and Homura were good to wait. What do you two want? Said Tsunade. There's a matter the Shinobi Council is unable to solve. They request your presence, Hokage-sama. Koharu informed her. This was a nerve-wracking part. The blonde was quick to anger, and it did not take much to set her off. Tsunade gave a sigh of annoyance. What exactly is the problem that the clan leaders of Konoha and the esteemed shinobis that I've selected cannot solve on their own, she said. Homura was the one that spoke up this time. It is because you're physically incapable of solving the matter. All subjects regarding foreign delegates are to be solved by the Hokage. The most we can do is provide input, Hokage-sama, the elderly man said in a respectful tone. Tsunade gave another irritated sigh. Who is delicate? She asked. A woman from the Hidden Sand. She has a scroll with the Kazekage seal. That is all that we were told. She said it was for your eyes only, said Koharu, in a rather respectful tone. Let's get this over with, said Tsunade, as she made her way towards the chamber, with the two members following behind. When she finally arrived, she pushed the door open, as she made her way towards the head chair that held the Hokage. As she stood in front of a chair as she crossed her arms, the individuals inside had stopped talking when she entered. Every clan head was there, and also those that she picked to be here as well. The Nara, Yamanaka, Akimichi, Aburmi, Inazaka, Hyuga. Other minor clans such as Akama and Hatake were also there as well. As Tsunade turned towards Tatsumi Inazaka. Tatsumi, since I like you the most in this entire room, tell me what the hell is going on. I've heard the gist of the situation from the fossils in the back, so tell me. Tatsumi was happy that Tsunade at least liked her the most. After all, that was a plus. Of course, Tsunade-sama, as you're already aware of, I hope so, a delegate from the Sen has arrived. We of the Shinobi Council is unable to discuss or solve matters that involve a foreign delegate. We have no jurisdiction on the subject. Her name is Temari, Chunin rank, prominent win user, but you probably remember her because she was one of the shinobis that aid in the retrieval of Sasuke Uchiha mission that occurred 2.5 years ago. She's currently waiting to seek the audience with you, Tsunade-sama. Tsunade made a single hand signal as an envoy in a cat mask landed right beside her. Bring her here now, said Tsunade. The envoy nodded and made her way off. A minute passed by, and Temari finally arrived, her fan strapped on her back as usual. Everyone turned their gaze towards her. She felt like a rabbit in a wolf den. There were some really big heads in this room. Kakashi Hatake and Asuma Sarutobi being two of the few that she recognized. Hey you, come here, said Tsunade. As Tsunade really didn't have all day, she wanted to get a drink and take a nap. Temari slowly made her way towards the busted Hokage. She remembered this woman quite well. She was far more dangerous than everyone in here. As she remembered that mission, when half of the team was critically injured and Naruto was not found, Temari could still remember the fear that she felt when the woman got angry and she released such rage that released an unholy amount of pressure that shook and broke the ground apart. It was the most terrifying experience that she's ever been through in her entire life, which was saying a lot considering her younger brother was Gaara. Tsunade held her hand out as Temari reached and pulled out the scroll and placed it in Tsunade's palm. Tsunade pulled the scroll apart as she read through the text. The more Tsunade read, the more annoyed she became as she read it. Temari cringed at the anger look in the woman's eyes as she watched Tsunade grind the paper into dust. Wait, what the hell? How the hell did she even grind the paper into dust? As her gaze settled on Temari, Temari swallowed thickly. My office, now, said Tsunade. Temari nodded as she quickly sprinted out of the room. Tsunade looked towards the others. You're all free to go, she said. All of the shinobis glanced towards one another before they decided to get the hell out of here. Not one of them were going to entertain the idea of asking what was in that scroll. She had ground the paper to dust with one hand. It was not worth the trouble. Not worth the slightest trouble. Temari was patiently waiting in the office. Tsunade came in as she broke the door off the hinges. She was pissed. As Temari gulped at that, the woman slowly made her way as she sat down in the chair. She took a breath as she calmed herself. As Temari shifted uncomfortably where she sat, a person appeared by the window. The two blondes did not notice him, as the person just decided to watch the scene. The envoys noticed him, of course, but they made no move to inform their leader. The woman was pissed off. Not much else to say. Temari-san said Tsunade, please try to make me understand. I have no patience today. Temari straightened up. As you know, Hokage-sama, my younger brother was made the Kazekage, but the village has not truly accepted his reign because they still remember how he used to be. She frowned in frustration. A look of sympathy came in Tsunade's eyes. The Council of the Sand control most of what happens. Gaara has tried much as he can, but until he can gather the trust from the populace, essentially, he's just a figurehead right now. But it does not change the fact that he's the strongest shinobi in our village. This wasn't his doing. He was against the idea. So am I, she said. Tsunade was quiet as she processed what the woman was telling her. She knew that this was not Gaara's doing. The boy was similar to Naruto in nature. Yes, he was. Quiet, and usually emotionless. No wonder the two got along well. And Naruto had changed him for the better. And now look at him, leader of his village. And at such a young age as well. Impressive. So, said Tsunade, the Sand Little Council believe I'll just bend the knee to their demands, with such little compensation. Temari shifted uncomfortably once again at the woman question. I know that conditions are not entirely favorable, but the village has little else it can truly offer. Surely, there must be something else I can do. You do not have to do anything, said Tsunade. I don't look like it, but I've been around for a while. I know how this shit works. A marriage contract binding our village together is absolutely out of the question. I already know exactly who they're asking for. Tsunade's gentle expression shifted into something far more terrifying. Naruto is the single most important person in my life, aside from Shizune. And while I have nothing against you personally, Naruto isn't some shogi piece that I'll throw around. You tell your little council if they push the issue, I'll come down there myself. Do I make myself clear? Asked Tsunade. As Temari nodded. This had to be quelled before it got any worse after all. The Sand as a whole was no match against Tsunade. It was no secret that they were the weakest amongst the Big Five. After all, Naruto has already shown that he was able to beat Gaara. While Gaara has been getting better over the past 2.5 years, she doubted that Naruto was just lying back like that. And Tsunade was a Sannin. Not to mention there was also Jiraiya the Sannin. There was many powerful ninjas within Konoha walls. Tsunade made her way over as she patted Temari on the head. Good. I'm glad we see eye to eye, Temari-chan. Now you're free to stay for the night, before leaving. Yes, Hokage-sama, said Temari. Tsunade made her way back towards her decks. Nico, escort her out. As a purple-haired envoy appeared, and gave her leader a nod, as she gestured for Temari to follow. Once she was gone, Tsunade started to massage her temple. Damn, stupid job. Why did I take it? The figure that was there the entire time decided to come in, as he slowly made his way. His hands rested on Tsunade's shoulders. Tsunade's body tensed and her eyes snapped. But before she could do anything, the person spoke. Because you wish to protect me. That's what you said after all. As she heard his voice, she turned her head to make sure what she was seeing was true. As she looked at him, his hair was longer and more spiky now. His face had thinned up and his height had skyrocketed. Coming, he must be 2 head above her now. He looked good in white as well. She must thank Jiraiya later to convince him that black wasn't the only thing that a shinobi could wear. As she relaxed in her chair, when did you get here? She said. Better yet, why? You're not due back for another 6 months, she said. as she trailed off as his hands worked their magic on her shoulder. As Naruto looked towards a mountain of paperwork that remained untouched, she was wound up rather tight. Seems she still not care for the village proposals. Jiraiya Sensei has taught me all that he could. I see no reason to continue the journey. We ran into 2 members of the Akatsuki. Tsunade snapped as she broke the massage, as she got up rather quickly and started to look him over. He didn't react as he let her check every major artery and organ of his body. "Where's Jiraiya? Are you hurt?" she said. "Did you sustain any injuries? Who was it? How much? Are you okay?" she said. The questions spewed from her mouth one after another. "He was with me. I'm not hurt. I did not get injured. Itachi Uchiha, Kisame, Hoshigaki, there was 2. And I'm content," he said, as he answered every question that she asked. She looked up at him as he tilted his head to the side, like a curious puppy. She finally managed to get a good look at her favorite shinobi. A gentle smile appeared on her face as she pulled him into a hug. He was so much taller than her now, as her arms wrapped around his back as she lay, her head on his chest. "I'm glad you're okay. I worry about you, you know." His arms hung at his side, before they came up and he wrapped them around her. Tsunade smiled at a rather awkward hug that he was giving her. He was still unused to these kind of gestures, but it has been an improvement since the past 3 years. Several more seconds passed, as he finally relaxed. He said nothing as he stood in the embrace of his fellow blonde. As he inhaled her scent, a warm feeling washed over him as he stood there calmly. Something was there, that rather unique emotion that he felt, and his heart was beating a lot faster. He wasn't sure what it was, but it felt right. "I missed you," he said. His voice came out small and hesitant, like he was unsure of what he was saying. Her smile grew at that statement as she increased her grip on the boy. He was durable enough, a stronger hug wouldn't break him. Hopefully. The 2 blondes stood there for a long unnecessary moment. The envoys were there watching the entire ordeal as they were silent. The 3 masked ninjas had their assumption regarding the relationship between their leader and the Jinchuriki, but they would never say it aloud. Only amongst themselves would the topic be brought up. At times, it seems like Tsunade cared a bit too much for the boy. It bordered on obsessive most of the times. Naruto wasn't aware of these things because, well, he was different. But Tsunade would take hours out of her day, just talking to him about normal things, asking opinion on his thoughts, anything that would spark his emotions. Day after day she got closer, and each day the lingering touches would last a second or 2 longer than he should have. A gentle brush of hand as he listened to her stories. How her hand would rest on his shoulder and linger when they were out in the village, her gaze looking for something that only she would be able to see. Whatever their Kage could see had sparked her interest inside of the boy. Every day since his departure she spoke about him, mostly to herself or with Shizune. Shizune would sit and listen each time. She was never bothered one bit by her master topic of choice. It was, "I killed Itachi." As Naruto spoke up, Tsunade pulled away in shock. You killed him?" He reached into his jacket as he pulled out a scroll. "His head is in here, as well as something else." She slowly took the scroll as she processed what he was saying to her. It was baffling. Sure, he was pretty strong when he left on his training trip, but being able to match and even kill Itachi Uchiha, how powerful did her favorite blonde get? What about Kisame? Judging by how his eyebrow twitched, she knew that the sharp man had escaped somehow. Doesn't matter, next time I see him, his sword will be in my right hand, and his head will be in my left. Her eyebrow raised at how confident he was. It bordered on arrogance, but she knew if there was only one thing in this world that she knew, Naruto always speak the truth. If he was sure that he'd be able to kill Kisame, then she believed him, but she still worried about him. Her hand came up as she rested on his cheek, as she slowly caressed his whisker mark. "How strong are you, Naruto?" she said. However, he was distracted as he looked into her eyes. It was rare to see rather beautiful honey eyes like hers in Fire Country. Most individuals possess dark pupils. Her eyes were truly... He was cut off as she pulled his cheek, as she pouted, as Naruto blinked. She squeezed his cheek for several long moments before releasing. This was going to be a long day. Well, at least he was here now. Flashback. "Do you know my appearance?" As Hiruzen turned towards a boy that was looking at him. Those blue eyes, just curious. He was just 7 years old, but his eyes, there was something about his eyes. The way they surveyed the room, looking at everything before he moved. The little bit of emotions, it was like he was some trained ninja already. I didn't, Naruto, said Hiruzen. You were one of many orphans at night. Another lie. How many? Had he told the boy? How many more will he tell? He shook his head at the thought. It didn't matter. The village come first. As Naruto continued to look at Hiruzen, his expression not shifting the slightest, although his pants, where his hands were, in his pockets, his fist started tightening. As he slowly left the room, Hiruzen watched him as Naruto pulled one of his hands out and grabbed the knob and slowly started to turn it. Until Naruto spoke. Your bottom lip twitch every time that you lie. I wonder, how more lies will you tell me, said Naruto. As Naruto left, not seeing Hiruzen's eyes widen, as he glanced towards the portraits of the former Hokage. Was it worth it, he thought to himself. End the flashback. So, tell me about your trip. What did you and that old perv do? Tsunade asked, as she had Naruto armed trapped, as she led him through the village. He didn't mind at all. Train, we visit several other villages. It was interesting. Good, she said. And which did you enjoy the most? His head tilted to the side as he blinked a bit. I don't mind Kira, he said. The weather was accurate. I have an interesting take of the sword. Jiraiya Sensei was unable to assist me in that regard. Do you want me to have Nico show you the ropes? Asked Tsunade. You don't have to go out of your... He was cut off as she placed a finger on his lip. Yes or no? She asked. He simply nodded. As Tsunade smiled with a nod. Good, she said. Nico, draft up a training regime after I test his combat abilities. There was no verbal response, but she knew Nico was listening. If not, she would be punched across the village. Favorite Anbu member or not, everyone was equal. The villagers and shinobis gave a wide berth as the two blondes made their way. While they may have hated the boy when he was younger, they now feared him. Even after he saved the village from a rampaging Biju, their opinions remained the same. His opinion started to shift in one of annoyance as he sensed negative emotions. This village reeked of sorrow, hate and anger. He did not miss this village, one bit. There was few people in Konoha that he actually tolerated. He could count them on both hands, but the rest of the majority he was, well, indifferent towards. He didn't care if they lived or died. Tsunade noticed his irritation growing. Come on, she said. I'm taking you out to get something to eat. You and Jerry got here late. I'm sure that you're hungry. He simply nodded. Afterwards, I'm gonna have one of my personal Ando members go and fetch your former classmates. Kakashi has been wishing to hear of your progress. I find that acceptable, said Naruto. I assume that he has been up in his training. She simply smiled a small dip of her head. She was aware that Naruto did not mind Kakashi's presence. As Naruto felt his body coming to a stop, seeing that he had his eyes closed the entire time, he opened his eyes as he saw where he was, Ichiraku's. Tada, ramen, said Tsunade. As Naruto glanced, it is acceptable, he said. Tsunade frowned in annoyance as she dragged him inside. It had been Kushina and Minato's favorite restaurant. Well, that was what Jiraiya told her. When she was brought back to Konoha, the first thing she did was brought Naruto there to eat. It was pretty good. Ramen wasn't her first choice when it came to dining, but it was pretty decent though. As the both of them sat down in a stool, as Tsunade turned towards him, so, got me any gifts? You did miss 2 of my birthdays after all, she said, with a sly smile. Some emotions finally popped into his eyes, as he gave her a nod as he reached and pulled out a tiny black box. The box was crafted and wonderfully made, adorned with gold streaks on the sides. It was designed to look at waves crashing against the shore. Since you gave me the first necklace all those years ago, it only seemed logical to get you one, he said, as his eyes was not looking at the box or her. Tsunade wanted to squeal, he was being so cute, so bashful, a good step in the right direction. As his hand started to tap the wooden counter slowly. I bought it in Kira, he said. It costs, but she placed her hand on his lip once again. The price is irrelevant. You went out of your way to get me a gift. That's all that matters, she said. He glanced towards her before he shifted in his seat. Tsunade opened the box, and her eyes glistened at the jewel that was inside. A lime green peridot in the shape of the Uzumaki clan symbol, with a golden chain holding it together. She saw small ingrains around the jewel, but she didn't understand what they meant. Were they seals of some sort? They looked kind of familiar. She took the beautiful necklace out of the box and held it in her hand. It was so beautiful. The amount of work and craftsmanship that went into this. As he got her a jewel with her birthstone. This was not something easy to make. This must have cost him a lot for real. It is to your liking, yes? His voice came out a bit uncertain. As he looked towards her, she looked like she was about to cry. Did he make a wrong choice? He assumed that her birthstone, along with her Uzumaki clan symbol, would fit nicely. She pulled him into a fierce hug. His eyes widened at the action, and he was forced to brace himself so he wouldn't fall over. From his seated position, her breasts were almost suffocating him. But it wasn't a problem, he had grown used to it a long time ago. To my liking, Naruto, I love it, she said. She pulled away, freeing him from his prison, and she put on a necklace, the lime green jewel, resting right above her chest. How do I look, she said, as she pushed her chest out and gave him a wink. You look beautiful, said Naruto, like always. As her smirk softened and turned into a soft smile, her hand reached up and placed on his cheek. As he looked towards her, before she pulled her hand away. Hello, welcome to the... I paused. As she realized she was serving the Hokage. And Naruto today. She could not screw this up. If she did, she would be punched right through the restaurant. Forever known as a ramen worker that got flattened for making a mistake. She started to mentally cry at the thought she was so young. She had so much things that she wanted to accomplish. She hadn't even lost her virginity yet. Yes, hello there, said Tsunade, with a rather amused look. Correct? We're here for some ramen, said Tsunade. Blink. You know my name? Tsunade pointed towards her name tag on her apron. Gave a rather embarrassed look as she rubbed back of her head. Of course you do. Forgive me, Hokage-sama, she said. It's fine. 2 missiles, please, said Tsunade, as gave her a smile before quickly making her way off. The people fear you, said Naruto. She turned towards him. They've always feared me, she said. More so than usual. What has happened since I've been away? Tsunade started to drum her fingers against the countertop. I have made sure that the village knew that I'm the leader. Many were skeptical and arrogant when I was brought back and made Hokage. You already know this, but that doesn't matter. I was chosen to lead and know I'm going to do it. Sensei, rule this village. I know I'm stuck cleaning up his mess. Naruto did not comment on that. He was all aware of the third, failures and flaws. Naruto did not linger in the past that much, but he did not mourn the man's death. The old man dug his own grave and eventually he had to lie in it. It was rather ironic that his favorite student was the one that plunged his blade into his heart. He always did manipulate things from the shadows. I never truly understand how he had done so. Never saw eye to eye. They were more alike than they wished to admit. It's fortunate that they both perished. Tsunade glanced towards him with a slight smirk. Aw, it's my little Naruto, pouting. She grabbed his cheek and started to pull at it again, as she could tell that he did not like it. I do not pout. I am a shinobi. Pouting is beneath me, he said. As he looked at her, why do you do this? His fingers tapping the table more faster. Because I care about you, she said. Showing emotion is good, even if they're negative. And you're not that upset, so what's the harm? She slightly stroked his whiskers with her thumb. His annoyed expression disappeared, and he averted his eyes away from her. 2 Mr. Ramen for the lovely couple, said, as she placed both of them down. Tsunade's hand retreated a bit too quickly, as she turned towards Ayam. Ayam realized her statement. Her eyes widened as she bowed and apologized. As Naruto watched on, lovely couple, he thought. That same feeling spread through his body, that warm feeling. At that thought, his gaze went towards the noodle. A small smile came towards his face. Time skip. Tsunade was once again pulling Naruto along as they made their way towards Team 7 training ground. The meal had been enjoyable. Where is Jiraiya anyway? He said he had some contacts that he needed to speak with. Tsunade nodded as he continued until an Anvu member arrived. The shinobi requested are at the location, Tsunade-sama. Tsunade nodded as the Anvu vanished off. The both of them made their way through the foliage that covered the clearing as they entered the training field. There were multiple shinobis there. Some of them were speaking to one another, some of them on the ground looking into the sky. As everyone turned, as the conversation ceased. As Naruto's eyes finally opened, his former classmates had really changed in the last 2.5 years. Judging by their expressions, they likely thought the same for him as well. As Tsunade flourished her arm, "Tada," she said, as Naruto looked towards her, with a plain expression on his face. Normally, when you present a gift to someone, it's supposed to bring them some kind of pleasure, said Naruto. All of his shinobi's sweat dropped at hearing that, as Tsunade simply dragged him along. As Naruto gave a low sigh, he was indifferent to many of these people here. The only people that you go to his way to speak with were Kakashi, Shizune, Anko, Shino, Neji, Shikamaru, and Hinata. He clicked his teeth lightly. Tsunade's grip on his arm increased as she wouldn't let him go. His old sensei was the first to greet him. His right hand was in his pocket, and that eye smile was there as usual, as he came over and placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder, and then made a gesture for ruffling someone's hair. As he did that for several seconds, "I'm certain that you're aware that I'm taller than I used to be, but for your mental health, I will inform you anyway," said Naruto. As Kakashi's eyes smiled more at that, "I'm very much aware. I just think that he's funny," he said, as he reached out his hand, as he gave Naruto a firm handshake. "I'm glad to see you back, Naruto," he said. "I'm sure that you're stronger than me now," he said. There was humor in his voice, but Naruto knew better. "I could take you on the arm tied behind my back, Kakashi-sensei," said Naruto. "I stopped being your sensei after Team 7 was disbanded." "Kakashi is fine," he said, as he did not respond to Naruto's overall statement, because he would not doubt Naruto's statement. There was confidence and then there was arrogance, and in his life he has never seen Naruto show arrogance once. Tsunade released Naruto's arm and made her way towards Shizune to speak in private. Naruto reached his arm out and caught the kunai that was thrown towards him. As he looked towards it, "You have not changed, Uncle-san," he said. "You act like that's a bad thing." "And it's Uncle-chan," she said. "Say it with me, Shan," she shouted, as Naruto turned away and ignored her. Shikamaru remained on the ground, looking up to the heavens as people greeted him. Most of the greetings were returned with a slight nod of the head and a hello, as someone stepped beside Shikamaru. "You noticed it, yes?" said Neji. Shikamaru nodded, as Shino appeared beside the duo, greeting him with a nod. "It is still surprising to see you without bandage around your head, Neji-san. I have Tsunade-sama to thank for that. Abolishing the Hyuga birdcage seal, I feel like a true man. My life will be laid on the line whenever she acts, because of what she has done for me. My loyalty transcends the Hyuga clan interests." Shino did not comment on that, but he did give him a nod. As Naruto finally made his way over towards them, the three boys that he could call his friends, "You three have not changed much." Shikamaru gave a grunt, but he did not speak. Neji gave Naruto a small smile with a nod, Shino giving him a nod. As Naruto placed both of his hands in his pockets, "It does not surprise me that Haruna-san is not here. Where is Lee-san and Tenten-san? They were sent on a mission, Kurenai-san. Team 8 has a new sensei. Uncle-san is leading them now. I've also been promoted to Jonin. Congratulations. I assume that you're the only one then." His gaze swept through the clearing before focusing back on Neji. As Neji gave him a nod, "We're all tuning now, Whiskers." A female voice stated this. Someone leaned on him. "Man, you've gotten so tall." "You just like Uncle now," Ino-san said Naruto, as she gave him a smile. "You'll be right about that. She said to use my sex appeal as my advantage." "Why? Do you like how I look, Whiskers?" she asked. As Naruto detached himself from her, "You're a beautiful woman, Ino-san. I'm sure one day you'll find someone that can keep up with you." Ino pouted as his not so subtle rejection sank in. "You wouldn't even entertain the idea of a date with me, Naruto," she said, as she tilted her head curious to hear his answer. She was unaware of the attention that she brought upon herself after asking that question. Honey brown eyes had been watching the interaction since it started. Tsunade's face was blank as she listened to the conversation between the teens. As Naruto walked away from the group, Ino blinked. "Was it something I said?" She glanced at the boys who knew Naruto the most, as Shikamaru looked towards her. "You made him uncomfortable, Ino. Troublesome girl," said Shikamaru with a sigh. She looked towards the other two, as they nodded. "What? How? That doesn't even make any sense. Your personality can be rather overbearing. Naruto-san prefers privacy, and you try to invade it. It is only logical that you made him uncomfortable," said Shino. "But Anko does the same thing. How is it any different?" she asked in confusion. "Because," as Ino was hit over the back of the head by Anko, "you're not me." "Ow. Let's just say that you're not similar to him like I am. I'll leave it at that," said Anko, as she pulled the thin ball from her mouth and placed it towards Ino's face. "Now, don't you push it, or I'll scoop those pretty eyeballs out and make you eat them. Got it?" As Ino nodded shakily, Meanwhile, as Naruto made his way towards the lake, where the young woman was, blue, navy blue long hair. Her eyes were closed, hiding her pale white eyes. "You have grown into a beautiful woman, Hinata-san," said Naruto. "Your compliments are always a breath of fresh air. You've grown into an incredible man, Naruto-kan," she said. "Your parents would be proud." The sincerity in her voice. He wasn't uncomfortable. He gave a small sigh. "It's what I've been told," he said. "Though I'm hard-pressed to truly believe it myself, I have accomplished little compared to my father and mother. You became a Chunin after 6 months of being an active shinobi. You would have single-handedly dominated the entire Chunin exams if it was not for the invasion. You defeated the Ichibai Jinchuriki after he transformed, and you mortally wounded Orochimaru's right-hand man. So stop selling yourself so short," she said. "You've done things that most shinobi could never achieve in your lifetime. In less than a year. And I'm sure that you did more on your trip with Jiraiya-sama." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "You need to stop comparing yourself to your father. He was a talented man, but so are you, Naruto-kan." She gave a soft smile as she removed her hand. She started to walk away as she gave one last statement. "You told me if I wanted to stand up, that I need to fall down first." As Naruto looked into the water as you remember those words, that he told that shy girl so many years ago. Had he truly started to compare himself to his father? Jiraiya and Tsunade told him that Kushina and Minato would be proud. It didn't matter what he did in life. He thought they said that to give him something to strive for. He was a shinobi, yes. But for what? To protect Konoha? He shook his head at that. He didn't necessarily care about the village. Well, the people at least. If not for the village, and what? Through Supakate. Tsunade desired to protect him. Illogical. Tsunade was among some of the strongest shinobis in the elemental nation. She was perfectly fine at protecting herself. It's not as if he couldn't protect her without being a shinobi. He was a shinobi as he looked towards his headband in the water, and that was that. He placed his hands in his pockets as he turned towards a large amount of shinobis behind him. As someone stepped beside him, "When your mother was your age, she wanted to run away to a backwater village and disappear. She had told Minato that fighting for what you believe in did not change the world for the better. On some levels, I truly agree with her." Naruto did not respond as he continued to gaze in the water. "This world has always been dark. A few good deeds doesn't make us a better person. I've killed hundreds, if not thousands of people in my years of being a shinobi. Your father, on the other hand, he thought differently, you know. He always wanted to see the light in this dark world, always striving for something more than himself. His hands were stained with blood after the war. So many men, women, and children slaughtered at the hands of Yellow Flash. Your father was only 20 when he ended the war with a hidden stone." Tsunade moved closer towards him as she stood beside him looking towards a pool of water. "He always struck me as a naive man, with too much talent," she said. "He thought that people could be changed for the better." Kushina, on the other hand, disagreed with him. She went silent after that. As he finally spoke, "Why?" he said. She knew what he was asking, but she wanted him to say it out of his mouth. Express it. "Why what?" she asked. She saw his face curl in annoyance. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you and your mother are very similar." She didn't want to be a shinobi, but she was a Kyuubi Jinchuriki. It's not like she had a choice in the matter, since he was a rather shrewd man. The older I get, more my disdain grew for him. "I know you, Naruto," she said. "I know your mannerism. I know what make you tick. And I generally know what's on your mind." She was right, you know, as she was referring to Hinata's statement earlier. Naruto closed his eyes. It doesn't matter if she was right or not. No one ever asked me what I wanted. No one ever asked me or answered my questions. No one cared. So why should it matter now? Tsunade grabbed his hand as she turned it over. As she pointed, "If this artery is severed, what is the outcome?" she said. He looked at her in confusion before answering. "If the right amount of pressure isn't applied, then you bleed out without proper medical care." She trailed her finger down his arm. "But if it is severed vertically," she asked, "pressure is irrelevant. If proper medical care is not given," said Naruto, "the damage is more severe due to how many veins are damaged." She trailed her hand as it went towards his chest, right over his heart. "Now, what is it that both require to staunch the bleeding?" she said. As he looked at her, it only took him a few seconds to understand what she was trying to say. As she smiled, "You have emotions. Don't be afraid to use them." "What did I tell you 3 years ago, Naruto?" she said. He did not respond as he looked into her eyes. "I will always be here for you, and I will protect you with every fiber of my being. I am aware that one day you won't need my help, but that doesn't mean I won't give it. Anything you need or want, I will try my damn best to make sure that you get it, because you deserve it," she said. Her smile caused that same familiar warmth to spread through his body. She gave him a small wink as she turned towards Shinobis. Team 10 will be providing aid in Naruto assessment test tomorrow. I wish to see what he's learned. And what better way to do so than have you guys go up against him. Team 10 grimaced at that. The boy was already stronger than them when he left the village. It was gonna be a one-sided thrashing. Now, you're all free to go. It's getting late. Shizune came over. Tsunade-sama, have you informed Naruto-kun what has happened to his home? As Naruto snapped his gaze towards her, she gave a nervous laugh. I can explain, she said, as he just stared at her as she shrunk under that stare with a smile. As Shizune smiled, it's nice to see Tsunade-sama smiling again. But guys, we'll be in subscribe right here. If you want to see the next person, do like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on the bell notifications they posted. Remember to share to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also guys, stay tuned for the rest of the what ifs coming your way over in Anime King and Anime King 3. Yes, I have 3 channels, Anime King, Anime King 2, and Anime King 3, which I post what if on every single day for you guys to enjoy. So go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and your support, and yeah, I'm out for now. See you guys very soon. Peace.